You have probably been told you need 20% down and perfect credit to buy a house. And that's wrong. So I'm Allison Harris with the Harris Home Team, and I'm here today to talk to you about buying your first home, or maybe buying your first home in a very long time. So you may be 24 years old and you think that home buying is not for you yet. Or maybe you're 45 years old and you think you've waited too long. Or maybe you're 60 years old and you think you've waited too long. It doesn't matter. This episode is for all of you. So today we're going to go through the 5 myths and some of the fears around home buying. And we're going to do our very best to make sure that you realize the fear that is holding you back, all it's doing is keeping you in a rental where you can't paint the walls and you can't put up wallpaper and you can't put up a fence if you want. So let's go through these myths. So number 1, the first myth is that you need 20% down. And that is actually not true at all. So we have first-time home buyers who are putting down 0%, 3%, 3.5%, 5%, 10%, 20%, or even more. So there's so many different loan programs out there that will allow you to do different things. 0% are definitely the hardest to get. Those are reserved for USDA or VA buyers. So obviously you need a VA benefit to use a VA loan. And USDA is actually pretty attainable. You just have to buy in more rural areas. So in our market in Savannah, Georgia, a good rule of thumb is that if you are west of 95, you probably can use a 0% down product. So I really do not want you to think that you are going to need 20% down. You will feel like you've never saved enough and you'll have nowhere to start, or you don't know when you have saved enough. And that's really just living in scarcity. And our team would be more than happy to help you and connect you with a lender who can help you understand what loan programs might be available for you. There's also some really great loan programs available for first responders, teachers, or other servants of our community. So if that sounds like it might be you, definitely reach out to us and we can put you in touch with a local lender. So I have actually had a number of times where I've had a friend, maybe a former student, I used to be a teacher, reach out to me because they are looking for their next rental. They've never really considered themselves to be a home buyer. And then, I start to ask them, so why are we looking at a rental? And it's usually because, maybe they don't have their down payment or they're not sure about their credit. And I think that's a really easy place to get stuck. So this is myth number 2. People think that you need perfect credit. So you do not need perfect credit. The credit minimum thresholds vary by loan type and are often lower than people assume. Now, the higher your credit score, the better your interest rate. So it may make sense to talk with a lender and figure out if there's a few things that you can do to improve your credit score to get you that very best interest rate that you can. There's also some shame involved in credit. People are worried about a past debt, maybe a missed payment, maybe they were in bankruptcy, maybe they have collections and they don't know how that's impacting. I know when I bought my first house, I was terrified to get my credit pulled. And when I wanted to buy my second house, I was still afraid to get my credit pulled, even though I was a big girl at that point and I had bought a couple of houses. So anyway, I just don't want you to be afraid of it. If you have an issue on your credit, it's not going to be a no. It may be a no, not right now. And our lenders, our local lenders, are going to give you fantastic action items to be sure that you are ready as soon as you possibly can to buy that first house. It may be as simple as calling somebody from a collections notice stating that it has been not paid, showing evidence that it's been paid and getting that removed. It could be that simple. The only mistake here is not finding out where you actually stand. Okay, the third myth is that renting is cheaper or potentially safer. So renting can be cheaper, but of course you just don't know what the housing stock is, right? You could also probably buy something pretty inexpensively. But here's the real issue. Rent has no return, right? You're just paying down somebody else's mortgage for them. The mortgage payments on your own home are going to build equity for you over time. So renting may feel safe because it feels reversible, or like the repairs are going to be somebody else's problem, or if the HVAC dies, you can just call your landlord. Buying may feel more permanent. It may feel heavy. It also may feel scary because you're not sure how to deal when the worst thing happens. Stay tuned in this video series. We're going to tell you all the different strategies that we have for being sure that you never get stuck with a unattainable home repair. And we are also going to talk about mortgage payments, building equity, and how different a home buyer's net worth is versus a renter's. So there's all kinds of great reasons to stick with this series. So myth 4 is that you have to find a forever home the very first time. So this is absolutely incorrect. I know that my very first home was not my forever home. It only had one toilet, and that is not how I was going to live the rest of my life. But it was a great way to get started in wealth building and in homeownership. So you do not need to look at a house and think you have to live there for 30 years or 50 years or wait until you can find that home. You absolutely can buy a starter home, or we're going to talk a little bit later about house hacking. Maybe your first home is actually going to be your first investment property. You're just going to live in it for a couple of years before you buy your next home. And we're going to talk you through all of that in this series. Myth number 5 is that home ownership is for people with kids or with families. So a lot of renters, especially young ones or people buying alone, assume ownership only makes sense once you have a family. Single buyers and couples with children oftentimes are going to enter this game, the game of homeownership, for the very same reasons. They absolutely just want to be sure that they are paying down their own mortgage and not somebody else's. The sooner you can start doing that in your adult life, the better off you're going to be long-term. And it is a fantastic way to build wealth. So I really want to empower you. If you are just home buyer curious and you're interested in potentially looking at buying to find out if you're ready this year, next year, 3 years from now, none of these myths are really about houses. They're about whether or not you believe you're allowed to build something for yourself yet. And so if you're young and you don't have to wait for someday. Like, I think people are like, oh, someday I can do that. I mean, today could be someday. And if you've been out of the market for a while, you have not missed your shot. The rules change and most people just didn't get the update. You don't need 20% down. You don't need a perfect credit score. In fact, the credit score is probably a lot lower than you think it is. You do not need to be fearless to do this. You just need accurate information instead of old assumptions. And you need a great real estate team to back you, who has access to fantastic lenders, inspectors, and everyone you're going to need down the road. So myths are going to keep people renting longer than they need to. And fear is going to keep you from checking out all the facts that would actually just set you free. The first step isn't saving forever or wanting to feel ready. It's about getting accurate numbers for your actual situation. So we are going to suggest that you grab your first time homebuyer's guide to Savannah. There will be a link and instructions down in the comments. So we just want to empower you to know that you don't have to wait until you're ready. You don't have to wait until you have $120,000 saved. None of that is required. You just need to wait until you are ready to pay down your own mortgage instead of somebody else's and start building your own wealth.